Good morning, Britain. It has just gone 6 o'clock. Welcome to the programme. Our main news this morning, teaching unions criticising Ofsted's plans to replace the current single-word review of schools with a new colour-coded report card.
The inspection system used by the education watchdog was condemned following the death of head teacher Ruth Perry in 2023. But the proposals for a more nuanced approach have been labelled as bewildering and risk making things worse. And Nick Dixon has more detail.
A coroner ruled that an Ofsted report that downgraded Mrs Perry's primary school from the highest to the lowest rating contributed to her taking her own life.
What they have come up with is the old system rehashed with quite possibly even more risks to the mental health and well-being of those they inspect.
Under Ofsted's old system, a school inspection ended with it being given a single word judgment, ranging from outstanding to inadequate. The new system will look at 9 different categories, such as leadership, the curriculum, attendance and personal development. And for each section, there'll be a traffic light system to show how well the school's doing in that area. At one end, red to signal causing concern, then through amber and green to black, meaning the school is exemplary. Parents have mixed feelings about whether the Ofsted structure will be an improvement.
It's a good thing because it gives transparency. We'll understand the system a lot better.
I do think there's probably quite a lot of information available that not necessarily everybody looks at currently, though. So I'm not sure how much of a difference it will make.
The aim of the new system is to give a wider picture to parents and professionals of a school, but some teachers fear it'll replicate the worst aspects of the old system.
Well, Nick Dixon joins us now from a secondary school in West London. Nick, the Education Secretary is going to be giving a speech later today, and the phrase she's going to use is that this new system provides rich and granular insight. I suppose the question parents will be asking is, does it make it easier or harder to choose a school for your child?
I mean, there's certainly a lot more information as far as head teachers are concerned. Any kind of a change in the system is seen as an absolute positive, no question about that. It's just whether or not this new report card system, Susanna, takes into account all the sort of complexities of school life. But certainly there's a lot more information, a lot more detail there for parents and teachers as well, which is actually crucial. Let's get some immediate feedback from Andrew, who's the head teacher here at All Saints Catholic College. Hi, Andrew.
Morning.
What do you make of what you've seen so far, on paper at least?
I think on paper it's a good step change, this. If we look at the current system, it's high stakes for schools, as we've seen, but ultimately low information. If I look at the last report that we got as a school, we were judged to be outstanding, it told us absolutely nothing. And this is what head teachers and parents are consistently saying. So it is a step in the right direction. It will provide that bit more information to schools. But I think a key thing here is what the Secretary of State is saying today in the statement that I've seen. It's about high standards for school. And I think that it's on the shoulders of Martin Oliver to deliver that at Ofsted.
OK, thanks, Andrew. 12-week consultation period for this new system. Ofsted said it wants feedback from teachers like Andrew, but also parents as well, because they say nothing is set in stone yet.
All right, Nick, thanks very much indeed. Ed, welcome back.
And the Metro leads with red card for Ofsted reforms. The sister of Ruth Perry, a head teacher who took her own life after Ofsted rated her school inadequate, has told the paper that the new colour rating system for schools is a rehash of a dangerous system. And we're joined by the Mail's Andrew Pearce, by the Mirror's Kevin Maguire. Shall we start with that Ofsted story? Because we're going to be talking to the Schools Minister, Catherine McKinnell, later. Bridget Phillipson, the Secretary of State, doing a speech this morning. It used to be the case you had one grade. You knew, was your kid's school outstanding, good, satisfactory? And then the government said, we're going to ditch the one grade and we're going to try and make it, have more information. But lots of people said it will water things down. Parents won't know. We now know the colour coding means, as a parent, you could see a report card with red, kind of a very negative outcome. It could actually be quite controversial.
I'd wonder if this is about making it easier for parents to understand which is a good or better school, or is this more about the teachers? And that's a dilemma for the Education Secretary. But we have to remember that it was easy, wasn't it, for parents before? With one word, they got it. They got it.
Although satisfactory was actually not satisfactory.
Well,
satisfactory meant actually not very good. So the word didn't mean what it said.
But it was inadequate you didn't want.
Yeah.
I mean, my 3 kids are through school now. One went to a school that went into special measures because of that, and all hell lets loose. But you could drive past a school. If school was outstanding or good, they usually put up a big banner outside and said it. You could read the full Ofsted report, the inspection, if you wished. They were always made public.
Yeah.
I never read them. I never read them. I will admit, but I can see it's how do you get those 4 words. I quite like. Right. I wouldn't want to be judged myself in this way, so I understand why teachers don't. But it's how you get to inadequate, satisfactory, good, or outstanding. Now, colour coding. It's a traffic light system. If it's red, you've got a cause for concern in your school. If it's green for gore, you'd be happy. But what happened in the Reading case, the school went from outstanding to inadequate, but it went on only a couple of things, while all the rest was still really good. And I think it's how you reach the conclusion we should be looking at, rather than giving lots of...
Isn't the question, though, I mean...
other info in little bars.
The government's been criticised from 2 different sides.
Yeah.
There's some people saying they're making it really complicated and parents will understand it, whereas actually some of the teachers and head teachers are now saying, no, it's going to be the opposite of that, or be worse than the old system, because if you're a school and you get... if you get green, red, black, green, red, orange, it's all a bit complicated. If you get every rating a negative red...
Yeah, and there's 9 assessments, so that's pretty...
going to be quite dramatic.
And devastating. But looking at that report in Schools Week, it seems nobody's happy with this. The unions don't like it. Ofsted staff who work at Ofsted, who've come up with this plan, say it's been cobbled together and rushed.
You must be furious, because you always like to say this government's in the pocket of the unions. Now the unions are objecting it. But, but there is a value in a simple system. If you walk past a restaurant or a cafe, in the window is a hygiene rating, 1 to 5, and you just see the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, little circles, and then one is dark, and that's the rating. And I like a system like that because it is just simple. You normally only go to places that are 4 or 5. But if you take it away from schools, I can see why heads and teachers are objecting, because they're now thinking, well, it's just going to be all over the place, isn't it? But then that's probably true about most schools, that they have strengths and
the Secretary of
weaknesses.
State's expression, it's an odd expression she's using about schools, about how it's going to be something too granular. What's the expression she's using? What are you on about?
It's
very detailed.
Yes.
Well,
which I know you never like.
Yeah.
Well, that's a real catchy phrase to reassure parents.
No,
granular approach.
Offering way more information, and as you suggest, perhaps it's going to be too much information, because at least those 4 report words, outstanding, good, requires improvement, and adequate, were at least simple.
Yeah.
The trouble is that this has all come because of the inquest into the death of Ruth Perry, which found the Ofsted inspection contributes to her taking her life, because she was so worried about her school going from outstanding to inadequate. And perhaps it feels like, have they gone then too far?
The other way.
The other way, in making it too complicated now. And also, if the idea was to support teachers, unions do not think this is going to support teachers. So Anna on email said, I've been a teacher for more than 20 years and I'm fed up with new administrations reinventing the wheel. The colour coding system is yet another example. We recommend as teachers not using red marking in children's books, as it causes distress. How then is a new colour, Ofsted, going to stop teachers and senior leaders from feeling stressed or disheartened? The whole point was to stop teachers feeling stressed.
No, but hang on. We can't at the same time say we don't have any distress and we never want to upset anybody.
Yeah.
But we also need to provide clear information to parents. You can't have both arguments. It's either the case, it's all going to be mushy and we're not going to say anything, and therefore parents won't know, or we're going to tell them. And the truth is, as a parent, if you find out your school has got 9 red ratings, that's quite bad. And to be quite honest, as a parent, or actually as a Secretary of State, if a school knows it's got red ratings, it should know, and the parents should know, and you should do something about it. How do you brush that under the carpet?
The parents are entitled to know.
Absolutely.
That should be the key here.
Absolutely.
That'd be the whole point of this.
But was the whole point of changing this in order to give parents more information? No, I thought the whole point of changing it was in order to avoid making
No.
I don't agree.
The whole point is to raise standards. That is the whole point, and that includes giving parents more information and also addressing the concerns of teachers and heads, which it seems not to have done.
But the truth is, none of really designed to do that, was it? Because there's two different. The report card was always about giving parents more information.
Yeah.
It got all caught up with the terrible death of the head teacher. But the truth is, I mean, this would help in her case in that there would have been one rating which would have been red for safeguarding, but she would have had lots of other green ratings on other aspects rather than one overall grade.
But would this review have happened if it hadn't been for the tragic suicide of that head teacher?
Well, it's certainly.
Labour was committed some time ago to.
When I was Secretary of State, we wanted a report card.
Yeah, at one point it was in the Corbyn era. It was abolish Ofsted, but you would still require, I believe, a national regulator. This applies to England, Wales, Scotland.
This is going to be tougher for head teachers and teachers, not softer, and that's a good thing.
Well, my point is it easier? Will it make it just as easy for parents to understand?
I think it might be easier because you'll have, all these. As I said, if you get 9 dark greens, great. If it's a mix, well, there's something good and bad. If you get 9 reds, I mean, that's going to be worse than being told you require improvement or inadequate. Because think how visual that'll be.
Yeah, what it does in the short term is it makes the school even worse because people pull out their kids, teachers leave. School's always classed as inadequate. I saw it in the case of one of my kids. It gets worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
So you've got to be aware of that. And it's why do you mark them down? Because you might be really strong in a lot of areas, and Reading, a couple of areas were causing concern. The head clearly cared about what she was
It's a novel idea that you shouldn't have red ink anywhere involved with schools.
There's quite a lot of red ink in my... I was going to say, I think we can all remember a lot of red.
I do.
Yes. The truth is, our head teacher in our report with Nick said, we're an outstanding school and this is a good reform. The truth is, if you're a good school or an outstanding school, you like accountability, you like the information, they like the colour coding. But if you're a school which isn't doing well, then maybe you don't want people to know that. And parents have a right to know that. You're right, Kevin. The question then is, what do you do about it?
Oh, yeah.
But not to face up to the fact you're not doing well for the kids. Yeah. That's the problem.
Well, you normally need a new leader, a new head, because heads are so important. But you want the head who can motivate the teachers and take the teachers with him, because
that's right.
It's not often the fault of the teachers. There's a whole set of circumstances that have come together.
Monday, 3rd of February, 2025, live from Television Centre in London. This is Good Morning Britain with Susanna Reid and Ed Balls.
Good morning, Britain. It's 8 o'clock. Our main news this morning, teaching unions are criticising Ofsted's plan to replace the current single-word review of schools with a new colour-coded report card.
The inspection system used by the education watchdog was condemned following the death of head teacher Ruth Perry in 2023. But the proposals for a more nuanced approach have been labelled as bewildering and risk making matters worse. Nick Dixon has got more detail.
A dedicated head teacher at Caversham Primary School for 13 years. Ruth Perry was left broken after an Ofsted inspection downgraded her school from the highest rating to inadequate. 2 months later, she took her own life.
What they have come up with is the old system rehashed with quite possibly even more risks to the mental health and well-being of those they inspect.
Under Ofsted's old system, a school inspection ended with it being given a single word judgment, ranging from outstanding to inadequate. The new system would look at 9 different categories, such as leadership, the curriculum, attendance and personal development. And for each section, there'll be a traffic light system to show how well the school's doing in that area. At one end, red to signal causing concern, then through amber and green to black, meaning the school is exemplary. Parents have mixed feelings about whether this Ofsted structure will be an improvement.
It's a good thing because it gives transparency. You know, we'll understand the system a lot better.
I do think there's probably quite a lot of information available that not necessarily everybody looks at currently, though. So I'm not sure how much of a difference it will make.
The aim of the new system is to give a wider picture to parents and professionals of a school, but some teachers fear it'll replicate the worst aspects of the old system.
Nick joins us now from a secondary school in West London. Nick, the whole point was to make the system better for parents. Teaching unions say it's made it worse.
No, they're concerned that it just piles even more pressure on teaching leaders and that it's not significantly different to the old system. But I think as far as head teachers, and actually some parents are concerned, any change from the old system has to be a positive thing. Let's get some feedback from the head teacher at this school. Hi, Andrew, how are you doing?
Hi.
What's your immediate take on what you're seeing? Obviously, you've got to see it working first, but on paper at least.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the previous system was effectively high stakes, low information. Didn't provide parents the information that they needed to pick a school. So the devil will be in the detail on this, but, you know, providing that more nuanced view is I think, a good thing.
And do you think it will reduce the anxiety and the pressure and the stress that a lot of teachers were going through with the inspections?
Look, I'm not sure about that at this stage. It's too early to say. You know, the consultation's only been released today, and Ofsted is high pressure, high anxiety, I'm afraid. But look, we need to remember that for children, education is high stakes, and we need the highest possible standards for them.
OK, thank you. It's a 12-week consultation period for this new system, and Ofsted insists that it wants feedback from head teachers, from parents as well, because they say that nothing is set in stone with this new system.
Nick, thanks very much indeed. That is our main news this morning. Coming up, we are going to be joined by the School Standards Minister, Catherine McKinnell. First, though, here's Ranveer with the rest of the day's news. Morning.
Thank you so much. We have politics for you to kick off. Sir Keir Starmer will meet with European leaders today to discuss defence and security amid a growing atmosphere of international instability. The Prime Minister will call on the EU to agree to a new package of support for Ukraine as US President Donald Trump threatens to impose those tariffs on the bloc and widen his global trade war. With all of that, this morning, our political correspondent Louisa James is busy down at Downing Street. Good morning to you, Louisa. Let's just talk about the Prime Minister going over to meet EU leaders. First time in several years since Brexit that this has happened, really.
Yeah, and it has dredged up some of the Brexit arguments of the past, but in a new context, with those on one side urging Keir Starmer not to undo Brexit as they see it by getting closer to the EU, especially if that pushes away the US and Donald Trump, whereas those on the other side say actually a closer relationship with Europe would bring huge benefits, including economic growth and Labour's promise to make us all better off. So Keir Starmer's going to be dancing around all of that when he meets the 27 EU leaders at a dinner in Brussels later today. Now, as with his meeting over the weekend with Germany's Chancellor Scholz, the focus is supposed to be on defence, and Keir Starmer will tell other countries to step up and shoulder more of the burden of fending off the threat from Russia. But the conversation over dinner will no doubt also feature President Trump's latest comments on tariffs or import taxes. He's already announced he's going to impose them on Mexico and Canada. He's now said that the EU is going to be next. He said pretty soon. And then he was asked about the UK. He first said it'll happen, and then he appeared to backtrack, and he said this.
So the UK is way out of line, and we'll say the UK, but European Union is really out of line. UK is out of line, but I'm sure I think that one can be worked out. Well, Prime Minister Starmer has been very nice. We've had a couple of meetings. We've had numerous phone calls. We're getting along very well. We'll
is using helicopters.
So glad because Linda
grabs. So grab your...
Then that will be a very... But more importantly, it will give a package of measures.
After all entry routes have closed. Good luck. Just think you could be our next big winner, and with that sort of money, £100,000, you could go anywhere in the world. Just like here, Table Mountain, one of the new 7 wonders of nature, and I can attest to it.
Ofsted is launching a public consultation on its new report card system, where schools are going to be graded on a scale from red for causing concern to dark green for exemplary.
But critics are calling the consultation a sham, accusing Ofsted of rushing the changes without sufficient research. And we're joined now by the Minister for School Standards, Catherine McKinnell.
Morning.
Just to start on, I mean, the genesis of this change in Ofsted inspection was the tragic death of Ruth Perry, the head teacher. And teachers and heads thought this was going to take the stress out of inspection. We have an email from Kathy. I'm a primary head teacher. I believe there should be no one-word or colour judgments at all. If you are a head teacher and your school is not doing well, you could get a form going to all of your parents with red, 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 all down the report card. I mean, that could actually be pretty stressful, pretty dramatic, pretty upsetting.
So these reforms are part of a whole package of measures that we're bringing in, and the Secretary of State will announce more about it today, to really drive school improvement. And I think it's really important that schools, rather than being judged in one word, which was the situation previously, very high stakes for schools, very low information for parents, that actually there's a much broader range of measures that will be assessed, much broader and more granular picture of how a school is doing, and it will give a much greater sense of the whole life and journey of the school, which will give parents much better information about how a school is doing. But more importantly, it will give schools much better information about what they're doing well, but also what they need to work on to improve. And it will give much more detail and that route map to improvement, which we think is a much fairer and more effective way of driving school improvement. And we know this is necessary. We have 1 in 3 children leaving primary school without the required English, maths and reading. We have 1 in 5 children not attending school, regularly missing school. You can't get a great education if you're not in school. Sure. And we've got 600 schools, that's over 300,000 children who are in schools that are persistently underperforming and not giving children the outcomes they deserve. So if you are a head teacher in one of those 600 schools and you get red, 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 red down the report card, you wouldn't say, I'm sorry, I don't want you to be stressed. You would say, get stressed, all these reds, sort it out. So if you're getting reds, then that will be a very serious situation, a school causing concern, and there would be a sort of statutory measures put in place to deal with that. I think what you're talking about in terms of these 600 schools is where there are lots of areas that require improvement, so that would be attention needed, and the report would give a really granular picture of what it is that is needed to ensure those schools can improve. But I think more importantly, what these report cards will provide is a picture for schools themselves and to see what it is they need to work on, but also where other schools in their local area might be performing really well, might be have exemplary practice. Actually, we can spread that good practice around, because actually the vast majority of schools are working really hard and providing a good education, but there are always areas for improvement. And I think all good schools should strive to be better, and this gives them the information to know where it is they should target that effort. But just on that point about good schools, Jane on email, I don't think it's fair to be saying the Ofsted information is for parents to have a choice. They don't. All the good schools are oversubscribed, so there is no choice. And I think I'm right in saying in the education bill you're putting through Parliament at the moment, you are restricting the ability of good schools to expand
their places, for academies to expand, you're actually giving local authorities the power to stop good schools expanding. Isn't that going in the opposite direction of giving parents like Jane a chance of a good school for their kids?
So local authorities already have the responsibility to make sure every child in the local area gets a place at school. What the change will mean is that the local authority will have more of an ability to work with schools locally to make sure we have the right distribution of school places in a local area. We're absolutely support schools to expand where that's needed, but it needs to be done in a way that is commensurate with the local community, because every child deserves a good school place in their local community and every parent wants that for their child. And so this will not only make sure that we have the right distribution of school places in a local area, but actually all schools are striving to be good, better, and indeed striving for exemplary as well.